Hello, everyone. This is my project for COMM 3220. The assignment that I decided to do, not assignment, this is practice. Um, the health issue I decided to go over was hypertension, and my target population was Black Americans. Let me move over here. So, my inspiration for this health topic was basically observing members of my family, particularly my mother's side of the family. They particularly suffer from hypertension. Oh my God. I'm practicing, so it doesn't matter. But um, mother's family is from North Charleston, South Carolina. This is part of the Low Country South. It is very much known for its um, it's awful. Its cultural cuisine and its cultural influences on it. Some common ones, some of you may have heard, are shrimp and grits, red rice, hop and john, sweet potato pie, you name it. Unfortunately, a lot of these foods are very calorie dense. They have a lot of salt, sugar, butter, um, saturated fat, stuff that you should not be eating on a daily basis. However, many of these foods are very much a staple to Charlestonian culture, especially Gullah Geechee culture down in Charleston, South Carolina. Many of my family members live with hypertension. My mother, she is a person with pre-hypertension, but many of my great aunts, my own grandmother, and I think maybe my own aunt as well have hypertension, and they are on medication, and it has helped improved. However, just seeing how they were still on medication and how sometimes the results would fluctuate, it led me to wonder if addressing cultural aspects and um, providing nutrition advice that was tailored to this population would bring more effective health outcomes, since my main career interests are in health psychology, which is a field that addresses how our mental effects are outside our physical health, and also nutrition, how that impacts our psyche as well. High blood pressure or hypertension is a chronic condition that clearly disproportionately affects many Black Americans. As much as 58% of the United States, Black adults in the United States. So clearly, this is an issue that is not getting any better, or at the very least, is not changing. And from researching this issue, I learned that it's being it's often diagnosed very early, sometimes as young as late 20s or early 30s. So, like I said, this is clearly an issue that needs addressing, or whatever methods are being used to help treat hypertension should be taken into consideration and changed up a little bit. Typically, this health issue, of course, is treated through pharmaceutical drugs, which is effective for short-term hypertension treatment. Um, Typically, this care is delivered through the biomedical model. So, for those who may not know, the biomedical model is a model in which the body is viewed as a machine, and anything that goes wrong with the body or malfunctions, disease, injuries, that needs to be fixed immediately in order to get the machine or our bodies working. So, of course, this doesn't really take into consideration, just anything from the patient, their choices, their preferences, their culture, their concerns, anything. So, as a result, biopsychosocial factors like dietary habits, emotional wellness, psychological well-being, they're neglected or overlooked, which, of course, can not only influence high blood pressure, but could also potentially worsen the problem. So, from my literature review, I picked two resources that I thought would be most impactful for addressing this issue. One was from Schoenthaler et al. They conducted what is called a faith study, or the faith-based approaches in the treatment of hypertension. This was a randomized controlled trial done in, I believe, New York City or just somewhere in the northeastern United States on Black churchgoers for 11 weeks. So that group received counseling, behavior modification, and standard health education, whereas the comparison group, or the group that didn't get the treatment, they just got standard health education for 11 weeks. So after that trial was done, the researchers found that people on the faith study clearly had better controlled hypertension rates, which proves my point that individualized, culturally attuned care is what's needed to help further address hypertension management. Now, the second resource, this was from the American Journal Board of Family Medicine. So here, it was discovered that it was clear that race-based prescribing was being used to help address Black patients' hypertension. However, despite this race-based prescribing, it is shown not to improve hypertension very much, if at all, in Black Americans. And something I found particularly interesting that the authors wrote that I didn't really stop to think about in general was how Black people in general are just kind of thrown under one pile as Black. They're not broken up into diverse categories like Black American, Caribbean Black, African immigrants, Jamaican American, et cetera, et cetera. This can overgeneralize care or just oversimplify it, because even within that diaspora, many individuals can have unique health experiences, unique representations of the disease, which needs to be taken into consideration if prescription drugs are needed. Which again, this helps reinforce this insight that care needs to be culturally tailored to an individual's life context with medication, if it's needed. Now we can get into my interviews. So the two people I interviewed were a family friend. Her name is Mary Johnson. She works at the Women's Medical Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. She is a deputy commander of patient support services. And then the second was my own mother, Dana Henderson, who was a stay-at-home mother to her 20-year-old autistic daughter. She has recently been diagnosed with hypertension for about 5 years now, both of which were conducted through a Zoom meeting. Regarding Mary Johnson's interview, how she got her start in her career was she explained how she saw many of her own family members, die relatively young from hypertension, and it sparked her interest not just into healthcare, also if there's more to hypertension than just medication, if you will. So that's how she got her start. Whenever she does get patients with hypertension and they express the desire to change, she always asks them their why. Why is it that you want to improve your hypertension? Perhaps, you want to see their grandchild graduate high school or college, or to be active again, to get involved into something that they used to do, but because of their hypertension diagnosis, they weren't able to do it as much. But the reason she uses the why is really just to reignite motivation if she feels like they're slipping, or to help get them started. Also to keep them motivated, because I feel like it can be very hard to want to maintain your progress regarding your health if you have no motivation, or if the motivation is lacking. Additionally, she noticed that many of her patients were quite health illiterate when it came to reading food labels. So that's something that she addresses to them directly when it comes to if they have any concerns or questions regarding their hypertension care. She also observed that women in particular experienced a lot of chronic stress, which of course we know can make hypertension management much more difficult. I believe that she explained this was likely because of the cultural expectations surrounding women of putting everyone before before themselves. So as a result, they don't really have time to address their needs or have time to really rest or care for themselves. So she said that is also something that she has noticed regarding hypertension patients. Some of the methods that she recommends for patients that she has seen as proven effective were, of course, the DASH diet, encouraging patients to seek counseling if she feels like they are experiencing a lot of stress or if their progress is just kind of phlegmatic and not going anywhere. And also, something that I never stopped to think about was, of course, improving sleep quality. That was something I never learned about. When asked if she could redesign hypertension care, what would she do? Something she expressed was how she wishes there were more wellness institutions just located throughout a lot of neighborhoods, whether it be for relaxation, for stress, for exercise, just things to really help people be active in their health instead of just placing fast food at every corner, because obviously we know too much of that can very much impact our hypertension rates. And she also said in stores, while alternatives are available, they're never front and center. It's usually always, again, the food, like the foods that are unhealthy. So, like she said, at Publix, she noticed fried chicken, fried stuff is always put front and center, whereas, you know, baked or broiled stuff is never given that much attention either. So, those were some points that she mentioned in this interview, all of which were very interesting. Regarding Dana's interview, she first experienced, so prior to being diagnosed with hypertension, she explains that she had constant headaches before being diagnosed with hypertension. However, being a stay-at-home mom, she assumed that this was simply just, the daily stress of just, juggling mom responsibilities. However, when she did finally go to the doctor and get diagnosed, she felt that her doctor was very impersonal. Unfortunately, she had very negative experiences with her previous provider. She said the visits felt like office meetings or checklists rather than a genuine health visit. Because the provider would often speak very fast, she felt like she couldn't talk about any questions or concerns that she had regarding her care or medication. And whenever she did discuss medication, she would just be given more of it with no real explanation of side effects, and her lifestyle, her life context was never taken into consideration. So because of constant, these constant inevitable results, she decided to look elsewhere for care. Her current provider, thankfully, promotes more open communication with her and treats her as an equal in the treatment process. Her lifestyle is taken into consideration, and what she does like about her is that she's not solely 100% sold on medication. She's not against medication, but she does believe that, there's more that you can do with medication than just medication alone that can help improve your health. So because of those positive experiences, Dana now implements various positive health strategies to help maintain her hypertension, such as physical activity, monitoring her sodium levels, or just using seasoning alternatives when she cooks, and even getting involved with reading her Bible daily, basically faith involvement to help keep her stress levels down, all of which, of course, in and of itself helps lower hypertension rates. She believes at the end of the interview, she did express how she wishes that there was psychosocial support. Considering that she is a caregiver to an autistic child, she believes that addressing that factor in life could very much help as well. And in conclusion, she really just wants care that helps consider her full life context. She feels that she's not just a diagnosis, she is a person, and she feels like her health care and health providers should address that as well. So how am I doing for time? Oh, perfect. 13 minutes. Okay. So, regarding interview results, both interviewees shared the communication and cultural gaps in hypertension management regarding Black Americans. Both women described the addition of psychosocial care into their treatment plans as essential to long-term success in hypertension management. Excuse me. They also emphasize the need for doctors to do follow-ups and also wellness support beyond their additional diagnosis to help with long-term hypertension management. But they both also supported non-pharmaceutical methods to approaches to managing hypertension. So now we can transition to the results regarding hypertension management. The primary purpose of these two results are to prevent breakdowns in patient-provider communication and also to tailor treatment plans according to the Black community's intersectional identities. So the first solution I considered was culturally tailored interventions. For those who may not know, interventions are programs or activities within programs designed to reduce adverse health outcomes. The type of intervention I would implement, excuse me, is the nutrition intervention. This program would target health behaviors that are often overlooked in Black Americans, such as behavior modification regarding, attitudes surrounding food, attitudes surrounding hypertension, or even nutrition. They will be conducted at locations where Black Americans feel connected and secure, such as a local health center, a wellness center, or even church, as I got inspiration from one of my studies from the literature review. I would also utilize providers that resemble them, or at least perhaps even from this population to help build trust and engagement, both of which I think are critical for delivering high quality care. And of course, these providers can check in with them to check on their progress throughout the intervention and to address any questions or concerns that they may have that may pop up during the intervention. The final solution is patient-centered communication training. For those who may not know, patient-centered communication, or PCC, is a technique that a communication technique that providers may use to consider the patient's output during the treatment process, or even considering treatment in the first place. The training that I would create, it would emphasize active listening, open body language, and shared decision making. This would be conducted at medical institutions, so that way it would target not just current providers, but also providers in training and clinics and wellness centers as well. Lessons will be taught by certified professionals in patient-centered communication who can certify these professionals as they prepare to enter the workforce. Content of the lessons, it could be cultural sensitivity, cultural competence, the use of simple language, so basically using plain language, reducing medical jargon, and even perhaps scenarios would help, I feel would help implement the importance of patient-centered communication. I feel like this type of training would help providers customize treatments and promote open dialogue with their patients to show that I see you and I hear you and glad that you came to me and I want to help you, and also to help build trust with patients. And of course, in the patient's perspective, I feel like this makes them feel seen and heard, which is obviously going to make them want to engage in their care and of course, foster long-term hypertension treatment. So here are my references for anybody who is interested in further looking at my resources that I used in this presentation, or maybe you're just curious about what other authors had to say in this health problem, blah, 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 whatever. And thank you so much for listening. And I hope all of you, and of course, the professor, to have a wonderful rest of the semester.